I told you to stay tuned. Here's the real main highlight. The original SSX here was just a warm-up course for this year for me. Now, we're on to the main course itself, SSX on Tour. But before we begin, to still continue Red Ribbon Reviewers promoting HIV and AIDS awareness, I'm going to continue off where I last left off real quick from the mission statement of the Elton John AIDS Foundation to what makes them so unique in particular compared to other HIV and AIDS research foundations. So, what makes them so unique in particular? Well, they focus on and they know how to reach the most marginalized populations that are left behind by other donors. They're not afraid to fail, they take risks and make a stand, they work in some of the most challenging countries and contexts, and they'll work at all levels to influence change with local partners for local solutions, which are amplified by the voice of Elton John at a national and international levels to drive policy change. If you want to read more about them, please check the link in the description below and check the link in the description for Red Ribbon Reviewers itself proper. Thank you. Enjoy! So after that little detour, we are now caught up on SSX games, at least the first 3. Why not save this for next year, you ask? Because I badly want to end this year on a high note after feeling a bit let down by the original SSX. Anyways, SSX on Tour entered development in early fall 2004 under the working title of SSX 4. 1 year later, the game emerged as On Tour on October 11th, 2005 for North America, and October 21st, 2005 for Europe on PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. A PSP version was released on the same North America date, and a PAL PSP version came out a week after the PAL console version shipped. SSX on Tour keeps the core of the series the same, but adds some major changes that take the series in a new direction it has never been in before. Did this risk pay off? Yes! Why, yes it did. Let's see how. The career mode is the biggest mode that has taken a serious remake in this game compared to the other 3 games. The mode is now dubbed The Tour and reflects the game's more unique art style. That's the other elephant in the room we need to address. Rather than doing the sport-like border cross getup seen in the last 3 games, we have a more rockstar-oriented theme. The game's background, UI, and other aesthetics now take on a more sketchbook-like style with some of the drawings. They almost look like something Napoleon Dynamite would draw in his sketchbook. The whole thing feels more like you are the star, and speaking of which, you are! The Tour, rather than have you play as any of the pre-existing characters, has you create your own character a la Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, 3, 4, Underground 1, 2, and American Wasteland. You get the idea. You got a good amount of customization options a la the THPS games for clothes, hair, accessories, looks, etc. The customization feels very expanded compared to the past games, and you'll definitely find something cool to make you in the game. You also now have the option to use skis, as skiing culture was taking off at the time this game was in development, and now you can ski in addition to boarding. While it controls the same as regular old snowboarding, you get a nice new look on everything with new tricks thanks to the addition of skis. Once you've created your character, you're dropped into a one-on-one race with SSX veteran Elise. You beat her, and then you're taken to the mountain. You'll find new events, known here as shreds, to complete. These include one-on-one races with the other characters, and aside from the default 4, you'll have to race the others to unlock them, trick point contests, etc. The usual stuff like that is back, but you now have other offbeat events like crossing the finish line with only 10 seconds of airtime and other specific things like that. These add some variety and are similar to the big challenges from SSX 3, although there is kind of a difference with those because those were more optional to be done on the mountain. Here, you must do these in order to progress in the game. As you complete them, you'll gain hype and cash. Cash you can use to spend on new clothes, snowboards, tricks, and other things like that. Hype increases your rank. The overall ranking in this game, in this system, is known as the charts. As you gain more hype, you'll move up the charts. Get as much hype as you can and get to number 1. When you're not doing races, you can do free rides. Here, you can find collectibles on the mountain, known here as Skulvies, also themed for this game's theme. There are also certain spots on the mountain where if you hit a pink camera icon, you'll get a photo of that particular spot. There's a good number of bonuses here, and they all add up to keep you coming back. Quite frankly, this is the deepest the career mode has ever been for any SSX game up to this point. But is the gameplay itself still good? Why, yes it is. I mean, what's the point of having this excellent career mode without good gameplay? The control system that has been there since Tricky, well technically the first game I should say, but you get the idea, has pretty much remained the same. But everything feels the smoothest it's ever been. The basic trick system remains unchanged from the past games, but Uber tricks have been reworked. They're now called monster tricks, and they work a bit differently. Once you fill up the first part of your boost meter, you can perform them. Rather than hold a grab button and press squared, all monster tricks are now mapped to the right analog stick. When you can perform them, after you jump, you will move the right analog stick in one direction, and then move it in the opposite direction. And yeah, you'll perform it. This universal mapping is much better because you aren't having to worry that you won't have enough air to pull off a trick, since if you move in one direction, you can back out by moving the stick back to the center. Other than that, and the new addition of skiing, the gameplay feels pretty similar. The controls work as they should, tricks are easy to pull off, grabs are easy to do, and it seems like the already well-refined system seen in SSX 3 has been fully perfected here to create the ultimate snowboarding/skiing experience. You might not need to pre-wind a whole lot though, since it's also now much easier to flip around and go crazy with your tricks. The game also has excellent graphics. While the game no longer runs at 60 frames per second, the game still runs well given all the new visual enhancements. Models look even more clean and detailed, the snow effects are even better than the previous games, and other visual aesthetics work well within the game's crazy art style. The mountain also has an excellent design. Amidst backwoods, you also have a frozen football field to ride past in one part, a mountain-like village town, snowboard/ski lifts, and other unique parts to really amp up the rockstar feeling, and a full-bore mountain. All with sponsorship galore. Lots of it. The mountain here feels much different than the past games, and it's all fun to ride upon. The tracks also are still well designed with smart placement of rails, jumps, and other things like that. Sound design has been another strong point for this franchise, and it's certainly on point here. Sound effects are even better than they were in the past games, with things like near misses and air sound effects being enhanced with how they sound. All other effects sound in place and fit the game's look. In another departure, rather than the techno-oriented sounds of the past few games, this game features a soundtrack that is more akin to a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack, with more emphasis on punk rock/pop/indie, rap, any combination, well at least of punk in those first three, along with rap and a little bit of ambient. It's a decent mix that still fits within the game's theme, and it has an excellent mix of songs on top of that as well, with songs by bands like Goldfinger, Pennywise, Avenged Sevenfold, and Morningwood. That last band in particular, sounding like the human version of the great and powerful Trixie from MLP-FIM, decided to start her own rock band. I bet you didn't think I wouldn't bust that out, eh? There's more FIM connections later on, just hold your horses, people. Some of the songs here are also featured in other EA games. Billy Talent's Red Flag was also in Burnout Revenge, as is Maximo Park's Apply Some Pressure, Morningwood's New Rock, and 9 Black Alps Shot Down. B-Side Wins Again was also seen in Need for Speed Most Wanted. The real standout of the soundtrack, though, are the songs by legendary hard rock/metal bands. Dio's Stand Up and Shout, The Scorpions' Dynamite, Motorhead's Overkill, Def Leppard's Let It Go, Eat Your Heart Out Frozen, and the main theme of the game, Iron Maiden's Run to the Hills. These additions take an already great soundtrack and elevate it to an awesome soundtrack just by their mere presence alone, and they're all kick-ass songs in their own right. Before we talk about the voice acting, I do want to talk about the roster here. While several of the SSX regulars appear, there are still a few notable absences. Gone from the previous game include Vigo Rolig and Griff Simmons, even though a rider who looks like him appears on the cover of this game. The biggest lost overall is Moby Jones, who have been in every SSX game since the original up to this point. This makes On Tour the only game in the series to not have Moby. There is art of what he would have looked like, which makes me think he was planned to be in the game but got cut for whatever reason. Anyone not mentioned in the cut list returns, and they're joined by 3 new people. Sid, a character I really can't even begin to describe, Sky, a female skier from Australia, and Nate Logan's little brother Tyson, whose voice you may recognize going back to Fim.
Treat yourself to a new sensation. Me.
Nix, we've been looking everywhere for you.
Yep, it's none other than Shining Armor himself, Andrew Francis. The only other Fim connections are Michael Dobson, Bulk Biceps voice actor, voicing Nate Logan, one of the only actors to reprise his role from the last game, more on that in a moment, and Tabitha St. Germain, Rarity's voice actress, under the Additional Voices section. How's that for a segue into the voice acting? The voice acting itself is still pretty good like the last games, but shockingly, many of the actors didn't return to reprise their roles, with the exception of Michael Dobson and Alistair Abel, Simon's voice actor since SSX 3. None of the previous voice actors returned to reprise their role. Joseph May replaces Ryan Wall as Mac Frazier, Samantha Ferris replaces Biff Naked as Zoe Payne, Cara Alicia replaces Jessica Lynn as Allegra Sauvages, Alex Price replaces Mariko Kage as Kaori Nishidaki, and Maria Dumu replaces Elena Burnett as Elise Riggs. While the new actors do a fine job, you can't help but feel the absence of some of the actors who have been with the series for years, like Biff Naked and Ryan Wall. Still, nothing too major, but it is something I wanted to point out. Let's wrap this up. SSX on Tour is a really solid entry in the franchise that, while keeping and refining the gameplay that made the past games so fun, manages to stand out from the other entries thanks to its unique rock and roll theme. On top of that, it plays well, looks amazing, has an excellent soundtrack to match, has other excellent sound design, and an expansive career mode that will have you playing for some time if you want to fully beat it. Another bonus, if you have the GameCube version, you can play as Mario, Luigi, and Peach, and one of the areas of the mountain is reskinned to a Mushroom Kingdom theme. Awesome. However, the absence of Moby Jones is disappointing. The majority of the VAs for SSX regulars being replaced is a bit of a letdown, and the game doesn't have any online play unlike SSX 3. Despite a few of these minor faults, I can still recommend the game because it stays true to SSX's gameplay while being its own thing theme-wise. I played the life out of this game when it first came out, and I still think back fondly on it. I give SSX On Tour a 4.5 out of 5. And with that, I want to wish everyone watching this a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Festivus, Happy whatever the hell you celebrate. And you know where this is going, so Happy Hearts-Warming Eve to my favorite Fim ship. And day for that matter. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to miss out on that mistake on the Sled Storm video from last year. Alright everyone, take care, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, click the big red button below to subscribe. Check out the other links in the description for more cool stuff, and check out the playlist on screen for more content. See you in the next video.